Alright, what I'm going to do before I take out all the screws is I'm going to look at the position of these grounding tabs. These are grounding tabs. There's two, there's three. They're held on by screws. And there's four. I want to look at the position of them so they do fall out. Apparently they're real loose and they'll come out, and I want to make sure I get them back in the right position. So, that's what we got. Alright, once the screws are all out, then you can go ahead, and there's little catches that they're sort of like little hooks that stick up, that catch over on the side, and they come up through this hole here in the center. I don't know if you can see that. Let me get the flashlight here. You see that little catch right there? Right there. It comes up through, and it's just a little hook that hooks on the board and holds it down. So you have to kind of press them over with your thumb to release them all. And once you get them all released, then the board will come up here like this, and you get to see the opposite side. Now, there's each of those transformers I was telling you about that cause the screen to light up. And I did a cursory look here. I do not see any capacitors puffed up. Bummer, bummer, bummer. So right now I'm going to try to release this board, and where I can work on it a little easier. I'll have to disconnect these two cables down here at the bottom. Got to figure out how that's done. And I'll have to disconnect this white cable right here at the bottom. Alright, these two cables apparently do not unplug from this board. They lead over to the motherboard, and underneath the motherboard are the connectors. Let me see if I can get my flashlight here again. Let me see where we get this thing. There are the connectors. So I'm going to have to disconnect the motherboard in order to unplug them. Once again, before I take the motherboard off, I want to check these grounding tabs, the position of them. I've got 2, 3, and 4, and 5. There's one in each corner and one in the center. And it's kind of strange the way they all face opposite direction. Now it appears that there's only one way they can go in, but you know, the way that the holes are cut and the tabs and everything. But just to be on the safe side, I'd still rather film it so I know what I'm doing. Well, that's it, folks. I've finally got both the inverter and power board out, and I have the motherboard out. At least I'm calling it the motherboard. The fuse is good. I don't see any capacitors that look like they're bad, which of course doesn't mean a whole lot. First thing I'm going to do though is check each one of these transformers. I'm going to use an ohm meter, a multimeter, and check them all out. If one's bad, the whole thing won't light up. So we'll see what happens. Not much to today's flat screen TVs, is there? Alright, I checked everything out, put it all back together, and all I get is sound now, but still no picture. So I went on the Antique Radio forum and I asked a few folks, so what do you think the problem is? The screen is glowing, I'm getting sound, the DVD player is working fine. One fellow said that there's a 680 microfarad electrolytic capacitor on the power board that he said was sagging. He said replace it, and that might solve your problem. So that's what I'm going to do. Again, before you remove the back from this TV, you have to open up this little hatch and disconnect these power strips here, and then you of course have to disconnect all of these plugs. Every one of those transformers, by the way, tested good. The diodes were good, the power transistors were good, no swollen or obvious capacitor problems. But if that 680 cap is sagging, I'm going to have to go down to Radio Shack. Let me unplug this thing. I'll go down to Radio Shack and get one, and I'll report back. Alright, it turns out that this TV does not have a 680 microfarad. It has a 560 microfarad, rated at 200 volts, which is this one right there. It's that big old sucker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove this thing. All I'm going to do is heat it from the bottom. It'll be these two things right there. I'm going to heat it with the soldering iron, then just suck off the solder and go ahead and remove it. Well, here it is. It's removed. Kind of interesting. They had rivets down in there, and this thing gets pushed down through the rivets and soldered. It's not just a hole in the board. Very sturdy construction right there. I like that. So, next stop, Radio Shack. Or a member of the Antique Radio Forum supplied me with some 680 microfarad, 200 volt, 105 degree capacitors. And it should work. I'm going to go ahead and put it in there. What we're going to do is just flip this baby over, nice and easy like. And I'm going to, this thing here is, it says a positive symbol right there, which would be the opposite of this side. This is the negative. So the positive goes into positive, the negative goes into negative. And what I'm going to do is solder that baby in, and then we'll plug it all back up and see what happens. Wish me luck. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, can I fix a TV or can I fix a TV? I think I can fix a TV.
Anybody care what this guy thinks?
No!